Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of 2D Prototyping in Unity. My name is Kasanas. In the last episode, we built ourselves this spiky rock right here. It's our first obstacle, our first enemy. At the end of the last episode, I had turned the tag enemy to untagged, and that still allowed our character to shoot, but didn't allow them to destroy this object. It was no longer tagged as an enemy. In this episode, guys, re-tag it as enemy. We're going to be doing a little bit of GUI work in the next little bit. We're going to be doing GUI work to, well, we're going to start off with a character. I think this is another episode that if I let it get out of control, it's going to be very, very long. So I think what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to start off with a little bit of GUI work, an introduction to the GUI. And we're going to create a little better indicator for our character on how many hit points he has left and how much damage he has taken. So, in today's episode, like I said, it's going to be broken up into several different ones. I think today we'll start off just with the character health system and indicating the character's actual current health. All right, and it's going to be a great introduction to GUI. And afterwards, we will go through and we're going to add a bunch of different things, all of which are going to help us build our final game. Okay, guys, so let's get started. Okay, so in today's episode, we are going to be adding in a GUI that represents our character's health, or holds the information about our character's health. And I think that's all we're going to do today. Just the character health, move on to this other part later. Okay, let's start off right away with an introduction to the main concept, or the main asset involved in GUI creation in Unity. All right, so going to your hierarchy, say create UI and go to canvas. Everything is based on the canvas. All right, the canvas is what everything is held on. All right, so let me say focus for a second up here. We can see how large the canvas is and how small our guys. You can't even see our guys anymore. They're way down there. They're so tiny we can't even see anything anymore. That's our rocket. All right, and the canvas is huge. The reason why is because it's a one-to-one pixel relationship. So we get the maximum area to actually draw our GUIs. All right, and we're going to see what it looks like down here as an overlay in our game view. So don't worry, it's going to be big like this. Do not worry. Okay, let's change the name of this canvas right away to HUD. And let's call it player HUD canvas. All right, there we go. Player HUD canvas, hit return. So I just renamed it, and you can see it down here now. A couple things popped up when I said create. I got this canvas as well as this event system. The event system itself is all the information behind how the GUI system works, and we're not going to really take a look at this right now, so don't worry about it too much. We're going to really concentrate on creating our assets and driving our assets through code. All right, so the canvas itself, the first thing you're going to notice is that it doesn't have a transform like we're used to, like the other game objects had. It's got something called a rect transform, and that's what all of the UI elements are based on, the rect transform. So anything we create UI based is going to be based on this rect transform, and it's going to show us the positions of our objects. So it works just like the transform in the fact that everything it controls our positioning. All right, our placement. Think of it like that. Our canvas here, there's more information in the canvas itself, and we're not going to look at this stuff a whole lot. All right, just think of the canvas right now as an envelope that we are using to display all of our GUI objects. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a secondary GUI object. If it doesn't show up right away, let's look at our UI, and we're looking for. Just type it in right here in the selection. Type in canvas, and you're going to see something called a canvas group. Add a canvas group. The canvas group is basically an envelope within the envelope. Think of it that way. Everything's going to be placed on this canvas group. And we've got a couple of options here. We've got a couple of good things that we can actually do. Interactable. First of all, anything we're putting in here, we don't want to be interactable. These are GUI elements that are supposed to be, in this situation, are strictly supposed to be visual and not interactable by our player. We're going to be putting in a slider that represents the player's health, and we don't want the player dragging that slider up every time he gets damaged, saying, oh, look, I'm all better. All right, so the first thing you're going to do, click off interactable. All right, and we don't have to really worry about this a whole lot right now, blocks raycast, but turn it off for now. Blocks raycast means lots of times whenever you're moving something around, let's say you had a point and click thing, you might shoot a ray from your mouse position onto to see what it intersects, and if block raycast is turned on, then your GUI might very well block the cast. In our situation, we don't have to worry about it, but for now, just turn it off. We're not going to be using it all anyway, so you can just turn it off. All right. So that is good. Our canvas is actually ready to accept additional assets. Now, what I really want to do is I want to create another envelope up here in the corner that's going to hold all the information about my player's health. And to do so is very easy. Watch what happens. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to say create. I'm going to say create empty child. And when I do so, down here we can see we get a game object again, just like we're used to. But this game object has a rect transform. And that's because Unity is smart enough to say, oh, okay, you've added a child into the hierarchy here, and its parent is a UI element, and therefore it's going to be based on the rect transform rather than the transform. So that's perfect. Don't have to change anything at all. I'm going to change the name to player health UI. All right, that's fine. And what we're going to do is we want this player health UI to be up here in the upper left-hand corner. And I want all of the elements that I'm going to be building on to be up here inside of this player health UI. So I basically want to shift this up into the corner. Now, if we take a look at this square that represents our new game object, 100 width and 100 height, a square, it's also got these little tiny triangles in the center. And those triangles are the anchor point, the point to which this object is anchored to our canvas. And currently, it is anchored into the center of our canvas. All right, it's anchored at the center of our canvas, and it is 0 pixels in the X, Y, and Z away from the center. Okay, we can physically move where these anchors are, because really I want it anchored up here in the left-hand corner. We can physically move them by moving around the anchor min and max. So look, I can move these guys all around, and it will physically change all the information up here as well. I'm currently moved at 36 away. All right, I don't want to do that. Let's put this back to 0.5. Everything's 0. Great. So we're back in the middle. I don't want to physically move it manually. All right. What I want to do instead is I want to use some of the presets, because the upper left-hand corner is an available preset. The preset button is right here. It doesn't look like a button, but it is. Give it a click. Boop. And when you do so, you'll get the anchor presets. All right. Now, I've got several different options. Obviously, left-hand corner, left-hand middle, left-hand bottom, etc. All right, we've got all the options in there. Now, watch what happens if I click the left-hand, upper left-hand. Bam. As soon as I did so, the anchors themselves moved up here into the corner. Great. The min and max positions moved around as well. All right, they're in the 0 and the X, and they're all the way at the top of the Y. And the actual position that this object is no longer 0, 0, 0, because it's basing it off this corner. So it's actually 280 units and 162 units down, all right, based on this. So that's what we've got here. Now, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this object to be up in the upper left-hand corner as well, not physically move like this. So once again, clicking on our presets, we have a couple of different options. By holding down the Shift button, we can physically move, first of all, what the point of measurement is, so our pivot point. And our pivot point of this object is currently the center. That's how it's set to the center. I want it to be up here in the upper left-hand corner. All right. So if I push this, it's going to change it to the upper left-hand corner. Also, I also have the choice of holding on the Alt button. So if I hold Shift and Alt, you can see that the physical box will physically move up here as well. So this whole thing is going to change its anchor points up to the corner. It's going to change its pivot point up to the upper left-hand corner of this object, and it's going to physically move this object up there. So watch. Boom. There we go. So we don't have to worry about moving anything around. We are once again set to our appropriate X, Y, and Z coordinates, X, Y, and Z coordinates up here in 0, 0, 0. Perfect. That's what we wanted to do. Now, we're going to add several additional components to this secondary envelope. All right, and the reason I created this is so we can have it all bunched together and we can affect it all based on strictly this UI element instead. All right, I want to add a little tiny heart, and I want to add a slider that's going to represent the character's health. Doing so is completely easy as well. Same way we did before. We're going to click. It's not actually going to go here, but we're going to click Create, go down to UI, and we're going to find Image. Boop. And once again, our image is, well, for some reason it's moved way over here. I'm going to move it to 0. And move to 0. Our image is now moved into the appropriate position, all right? Its anchor point is currently the middle. We don't want it there. First thing I'm going to do is drag my image and drop it under Player Health UI. And you can see that my anchor points shifted immediately over to here, all right? They are now associated with the center of my Player Health UI, all right? Let's change the name of this to Player Heart. That's fine. Now, and what we're going to do, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, I'm going to make this heart. You can see how it's appearing right here, this white square. I'm going to change my source image, right, or click on there. I'm going to find my heart. Bam. Double click. All right, there's my heart. And you can see this now has changed into an actual heart. And down here on the GUI, in the game, we can actually see the GUI floating on top. The heart is right there. Now, once again, I want the heart to be in the upper corner. So we're going to go here, we're going to click, we're going to Shift, Alt, and move it up into the upper left. Okay, great. It's looking a little bit big. If I hit play, so we can see it, it's looking a little bit large, and it's kissing right up against the edges, and I don't want that. I want this to be in a location that the player can easily see it, but that's not intrusive. I don't want it to be intrusive, and I don't want it kissing the edges. All right, I want it to look nice. So we're going to make a couple of quick adjustments. First of all, Player heart, too big. Let's try, I guess, 50 by 50. Let's try that first of all. All right. And let's see play. That is a more appropriate size. It's still kissing the edges, and I don't like that. I don't want it pressed up against the edges like that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust our X and our Y. All right. And we can just type in a number here. Let's move it out 20 and down 20. All right. Up and minus 20. All right. So we're still anchored in the corner. When we stretch everything about here, it's still going to be anchored in the corner just like it is. But now it's going to be 20 pixels out and 20 pixels down. When I hit play now, it's at a nice spot. I like where it is. It is not kissing the edges at all, and it's still not in any way obtrusive. All right? Perfect. That is going to indicate to our player that the bar that I'm going to add right now, the bar next to the heart is health. All right, that's how I'm doing it. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, guys. GUI design, UI design is an entire branch of game development, and we are only looking at the very basic aspects of it, okay? There's entire courses strictly based on UI. So I'm sorry if I'm going over this a little bit fast for you guys, but again, if you play games, and I hope you play games if you're actually trying to make games, I hope you actually play them as well, you're going to know what you like in a UI and what you don't like. So maybe you can take some of your favorite elements and add them into your game itself. Anyway, so for now, guys, we've got our heart saying, here's our health. The next thing we're going to do is add in a slider. And the slider itself is going to be, well, it's not going to be interactable, first of all. Nothing is, because we changed our GUI canvas to non-interactable. Right down here, non-interactable. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to say create, bam, create UI, and we're going to find the slider. Boop. And there it is. Now, the slider itself has a bunch of different aspects to it, and several of them we do not need in any way. We don't need a handle, first of all, because the handle's not going to be dragged. I don't want the player dragging the handle around and adjusting their health, so I'm going to say delete. I don't need it at all. All right, and that leaves us with just this fill area, which is the front white, and this back area here, which is the background. Now, once again, the fill area doesn't 100% cover up the actual background. And that's because the circle was on top of it. So I don't want this background. I'm going to dump it. Bam. And that's going to leave us just strictly this simple bar. Boop. All right, this bar, let's physically move it. Well, no, I'm not going to physically move it. What I'm going to do first of all is go to my slider, and I'm going to register it in the corner just like I did everything else. So Shift, Alt, registration, and there it is. And I'm going to physically move the X and Y positions. All right, I want this to go across. Well, with this selected, I can actually just physically move it and put it where I like it. So I'm going to move it there, and I'm going to move it down. And let's say that's where I like it. Maybe it's not big enough. Who knows? We can increase its size. We can increase the scale of it in the Y. Let's say we like it, twice as big in the Y. It's completely up to you. I'm going to make it twice as big for now, just so it's really noticeable. I'm going to move it up to about there. Position it where you like. All right. So currently we've got ourselves a slider. and we don't want it to be interactable. I'm going to turn this thing off, first of all. And we don't want any kind of transition, which means that when people slide it, there's going to be some kind of a color change. I don't want that, so I'm going to set this to none. All right. This is going to leave me just a little bit of stuff in here. Okay, there's some information. 0 to 1 is this value here. I can say whole numbers only if you want. You've got a bunch of different options, and I don't want it to be that. In fact, I want this value to go from 0 to the maximum player health. So I'm going to set this through code later on. All right, same with the value. I'm going to set that through code later on. All right, for now, let's take a look at our fill area. Let's open this up, and we can see our fill. The fill itself is white, and white is a really crappy color to show health. If you guys think about game theory and you think about what normally is used for health, we usually use green for something that's good and red for something that's bad. In our situation, guys, we're just going to say our health bar is always going to be green. I want this to be turned all the way down, so I only want green on all the way down. Turn off the blue all the way down. That's good for our green. Turn it off. That is going to be our green bar. Now, basically what I want to happen, let's change the name of this to, and I should have done this too. Let's see what happens when I physically move it up there. Great. So I'm going into my health UI. My slider, let's change the name to player health slider. Perfect. All right, so let's give it a play and see if we like it. If not, we can make our changes. That's not so bad. It's not obtrusive. It looks pretty good in there, and it's long enough that our player is going to be able to see it. All right, so far so good. I'm just going to make this health UI a little longer in the width, 500, let's say, just to make sure it's got everything encompassed. I don't have to. I didn't have to do that, but I'm going to. That way I can kind of see where everything is. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now what we got to take a look at is the code to be able to affect our health. And that code is relatively straightforward. We've already actually got most of it in place. All right. What we want is our character. Let's click on our character and let's go on down to player health. Let's open up our player health script. All right, there's our player health script. Right now it's relatively simplistic. There's not a whole lot in here. And we're going to add only a couple of lines of code to actually be able to affect this thing here to indicate our actual health. The first thing I want to do, let's add it in underneath here. That's fine. Let's call this our HUD variables. All right, HUD variables. And for now, we're only going to add one. Our HUD variable is going to be our health bar. We actually want to have a reference to our health bar. Let's say public and slider. Now, before I can actually go farther, I have to make one little adjustment. Now that I'm writing code and I'm actually using objects that are not actually included in either the Unity engine or the systems collection, I actually have to add it up here. So before you can actually see any of the UI elements, you have to say using, and we're going to add Unity engine dot UI. All right, and doing so, it's going to give access to all of the information about the UI as well. So our public variable, our first public variable, is going to be a slider. Slider, perfect. And let's call this slider, I don't know, health slider. Slider. All right, perfect. This is going to be a reference to the GUI slider, all right? And it's going to allow us to adjust the values on that slider automatically. Now, the first thing we want to do, let's move this back a bit. The first couple of things we want to do, let's do some HUD initialization. Initialization. All right, so what we want to do first of all is we want to make sure that our health bar has an appropriate value according to what our character's health is. So currently the what's it called again? What did I call it? Health slider dot maximum value. The maximum value on our health slider is going to be equal to full health. All right, we've already said what the character's health is here, and we want the maximum value on our health slider to be the same as the full health. All right, Next, we want our health slider dot current value, so just the value, to be equal to, and to start off with, our character starting off healthy. So that's also going to be equal to full health. Great. So far, so good. And that's all. That's all we need to do for our initialization of the HUD currently. All right. So our health slider is going to have a new value, and it's going to be all the way to the top. Great. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to see if we're actually hurt. All right. We already know if we've been hurt. All right. We have it right here in the add damage. So if our character gets hurt right here, we've subtracted the damage, and we've adjusted the current health of the player. What we have to do now is adjust the actual slider. Super easy to do. Health slider dot value is now going to be equal to current health. All right, that's automatically going to adjust the value, and depending on how you've set it up, whether you've got whole numbers or not, is going to tell you whether or not how much it moves. All right, there's not going to be any kind of transition or anything else. All right, so I think that's pretty much all we need to do. All right, so let's say File and say Save. Bam. Let's make sure everything down here is working. All right, great. Everything seems to be working. Take a look at our character. Our health slider is not defined yet. We're going to drag our slider right here, and we're going to drop it right there. Okay, with that done, I want to adjust something here. Let's zoom back into our screen and find, or we can just do it right here. Let's find our spiky rock. Focus on it. Sorry, focus on it. And let's adjust the damage to, instead of 10, let's just the damage to 1. All right, that is our current damage. Now, when I say play, we have got our health indicator right up here. Great. And watch what happens when I jump. All right, my health bar is going down slowly, slowly, slowly. All right, perfect, guys. That is your introduction to the UI. I hope you guys liked it. It's relatively easy. We're going to do much more UI in the next couple of episodes. We're getting kind of long already, so I want to cut it off here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know with a thumbs up. If you didn't, a thumbs down is perfectly fine. You know, I prefer thumbs up, so give me tons of those. If you didn't like it, though, a thumbs down is perfectly fine. You can tell me why in the comments why you didn't like it, and I will go ahead and try and make changes. All right, I'm trying to make videos here that will teach you guys how to make a video game. All right, so if I'm not doing it right, you got to let me know, and that way I can make changes too. All right, guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Say hi, ask your questions, anything you want. All right, guys, thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below, and if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourself a wonderful day, everyone.